Okay. All right. Thanks for coming today. I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their Saturday. Saturdays are busy. Weekends are precious for people that are, in the field or at work or wherever. But we appreciate you taking a little time for us to talk about what's kind of what we're up to and what we're trying to accomplish through God's work. And so today we're gonna talk a little bit about Keaton's Angel Homes. It's an organization, it's a 501c3 organization, charitable organization that's designed to care for special needs orphans. So that's a special interest in mine and Mamie's lives, and we've been blessed by having relationships with a lot of kids with special needs, orphans with special needs over the years, and including our own children. And so we'll explain a little bit about how the organization came to be, but well, hopefully our goal is when you leave today, you know what we're trying to accomplish, you know a little bit more about the organization, how you can help, and how you can advocate and tell others, because that's really key in today's world, is to be able to get the word out and to be able to articulate it well so people understand how they can get involved if it's something that they feel like they're led to contribute to or to encourage others. So we are going to get started. And then I should have introduced myself. I'm Matt, and this is Mandy. Sorry. I think everybody knew that, but it's one of those things I always forget to do. So, so let's get started.
Okay, so like Matt said, Keaton's Angel Homes is a licensed 501c3 non-profit organization, and we're established to provide loving homes, personal care, proper nutrition, and therapy to special needs orphans in Taiwan and India, and eventually as we expand, hopefully to some other countries in the world that have similar social and economic, just countries that are similar to that. Some of you might be wondering who Keaton is, for the name Keaton's Angel Homes, and why Taiwan and India. And so Keaton, actually as I look into the crowd, a lot of you were able to meet our son Keaton when he was with us. Our family adopted Keaton when he was 3.5 years old from Taiwan. And Keaton was born with multiple complex special needs. He spent his life in a wheelchair. Keaton was not able to walk, talk, or eat through his mouth, but he was just one of the most joyful people that I've ever met. He was known for his big bright smile. He loved life. He loved being part of a family, and just a very, very special child who had just a lasting impact on our life. And so Keaton was with us for almost 4 years when he very suddenly and unexpectedly went to be with Jesus. And so Keaton's Angel Homes was created in memory of Keaton to help other special needs orphans in Taiwan and around the world, just to know that they are fearfully and wonderfully made in God's image. We know that there's a huge need for homes like this in Taiwan, where Keaton was from, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then India is a country that has always been very close to our hearts. We have a niece who was adopted from India who has some special needs, and we were put into contact with some friends who had a vision similar to this for a home like this in Taiwan. And so after a lot of prayer and meetings and different things like that, we were actually able to open a home in Tamil Nadu, India, and in Taidong, Taiwan. And someone did ask me why we're calling these homes, if they're homes or are they like orphanages, and they're very similar to orphanages in the fact that they will house many children, but we don't require that the children who go into the homes necessarily be put up for adoption. And our homes will provide some other services that regular orphanages don't usually provide.
So one of the ways that we get the question all the time: how do you describe it? What is it that you're really trying to accomplish? And so one of the ways I always like to describe it is having people think about a special needs child that they know out there. A lot of us know, we've interacted over the years with families that have had special needs children. And if you were to think about what are some of, the caregiver for that child, what are some of the words you'd use to describe them? And that's usually my first question. And usually some of the things that they say are they're loving, they're compassionate, they're joyful, they're patient. It can be a challenge, but it's a real joy to them, and it brings out the best in them. Those are the qualities, those innate qualities of a caregiver, of a child with special needs that really come out. And then if you ask them, well, how do you usually describe the child, right, with special needs? a lot of the same words come up. They're loving, they're appreciative, they're thankful, they're definitely curious, they're resilient, they're usually giving, very kind-hearted. And really, the best of each of those individuals comes out when you put the two together, when they're united. That adult, that caregiver, really, they really shine as a result of that child. And the child really shines as a result of that caregiver. Because without them, it would be a much different situation.
So I want you to imagine with me for just a second that you have a special needs child and the caregiver is gone, absent, and in a lot of cases, never even introduced. And that's the reality for hundreds of thousands of special needs orphans in Taiwan, in India, and around the world. They don't have a caregiver. They don't have someone to come in and hold them and love them, support them, brighten their day, and just let them know that their little life matters. And in a lot of cases, these children are nonverbal, and so they can't express their needs. And so when their needs continually go unmet, their little bodies start to shut down, and their minds start to engage, start to disengage. And a lot of times, the children will pass away. They will, they just don't have a chance at life if they don't have a caregiver there. A lot of them don't have the opportunity to feel God's love through another person. And so I'm just going to give you a couple examples of the difference that we've seen in a child who has a caregiver and those that really don't. So if you kind of look up by the Keaton's Angel Homes logo, the little boy in the middle with the tape on his nose and the feeding tube coming out of his nose, that's actually Keaton, and that was the first picture that we got of Keaton. And Keaton was born in Taiwan, like I said earlier, with multiple complex special needs. Keaton spent the first year of his life in a hospital in Taiwan. And when he was released, since Keaton ate through a feeding tube, there were no orphanages that would take him. Because orphanages in Taiwan are not set up for children with feeding tubes. They don't have the staff, they don't have the knowledge of how to use that. And so the hospital released him to a nursing home with elderly people. And Keaton was the only child there. And Keaton spent the next 2.5 years of his life in a back room of this nursing home in a little tiny bed. And a caregiver, or a staff member, I guess, would come in and she would pour formula into Keaton's tube. It would go into his nose and he would get his formula and she would change his diaper and she would leave. And that happened only a few times every day. And for 2.5 years, that was Keaton's only human interaction. I will never forget when Matt and I traveled to Taiwan to pick Keaton up. And they lifted him out of this little crib and he was flat as a board. The back of his head was completely flat and his little ears were squished up. And he, just because he had never been picked up and held, when you take a little baby, like Paige, and lay them into your arms, that baby naturally cradles into your arms. And Keaton was just stiff as a board. The atrophy in his muscles was almost unimaginable. We couldn't even bend him to set him up on our lap because he had just been laying there for 2.5 years in this nursing home. And so we brought Keaton home, and it was incredible to see Keaton over the next 4 years just transform into this little person that God had created him to be. We saw his personality come out. He had likes and dislikes. He went to physical therapy. He even got to a point where through an assistive walker, he was able to take his first steps and walk around our kitchen, just things like that that never ever would have been possible for Keaton had he stayed in this nursing home in Taiwan. I think of Keaton's story as a story of redemption, of how God had created him for this purpose, and then Keaton was, brought into a family and shown love and given a caregiver, so he was able to receive that. The next picture, if you look at the bottom right, the little boy with the white shirt and the pink, looks like he's on a pink blanket. That's a little boy named Champ. And Champ was an orphan in Taiwan, very similar to Keaton, had very similar special needs. Champ was fortunate enough he was in a hospital in Taiwan for the first couple of months of his life. And then an American missionary family was in Taiwan, and they took Champ in as their foster child. And so Champ received love, care, therapy, the things that he needed for the next couple of years of his life. These circumstances changed, and Champ's foster family had to come off of the mission field. And so his foster mother worked tirelessly looking for any orphanage in Taiwan that would take Champ. And Champ also ate through a feeding tube in his stomach. And no orphanages would take Champ. I have emails going back and forth with her. She was trying to teach him to eat through his mouth, so an orphanage might consider him. And in the end, he was placed in a nursing home, similar to what Keaton was. Champ went into the nursing home in November of 2017, and less than 3 months later, in January 2018, Champ passed away. And we received Champ's report after he passed away, and it said things like failure to thrive, lost the will to live, things like this. And it's just absolutely heartbreaking to think that like a little child that young would lose all hope. And if you look at the top right corner there, the little boy that's sleeping that has all the hair and the blue shirt, that's actually a little orphan boy who is in India today, right now as I speak. And he is in a hospital in India. He's an orphan. He's actually up for adoption too. But this little guy, the last report we got on him said he sleeps a lot, doesn't open his eyes very often, is very stiffened up. When he's touched, he will move around a little bit. But just that same sort of thing where we see the difference that a caregiver makes in these children's lives, somebody who comes alongside them and supports them. And these stories, these aren't random stories that go on the internet, or they're not statistics, they're real life stories of real kids that our family has prayed for, that we have loved, that we've even held and cared for. And so, you know, God commands us to love our neighbor, and Jesus tells us to care for the orphans. And so that's really what Keaton's Angel Homes is. It's taking that commandment and that guidance and being the hands and feet of Jesus to the least of these. Okay, so now just a little bit more specifically what our homes will do in Taiwan and India. Our homes are designed for disability. They're handicap accessible. We will have teams that will go over and put wheelchair ramps in, things like this for the kids. We're just creating a place of warmth and comfort for these kids to go, to know that they are loved, to have caregivers that work with them with their therapies, you know, different things like this, just providing a place where they can feel God's love. We will have medical care at our homes. All of the staff will be medically trained. We will have a nurse on staff during each of the shifts, different shifts we have. There will be therapeutic resources available to the kids. In Taiwan, we're working with a missionary family, Luke and Dina Pan, and they helped us out with Keaton's adoption. And they have been missionaries for over 28 years. So they have a very good and ongoing relationship with McKay Memorial Hospital in Taidong, Taiwan, which is very close to the home. And so Dina has already set up for therapists to come into the home and work with the children on their physical therapy, occupational therapy. And then one of the things that our homes are providing is hospice support. And that's something that's completely unheard of for orphans in most countries, but especially in Taiwan and India. And we just, you know, we think it's important that no matter how long God has for these kids here on earth, that they're brought into a place where they can be held and loved and cared for. And so that's something that our homes are going to provide also. We'll have spiritual support for the kids. We want them to know that God has a special plan and a purpose for their lives. We'll do Bible schools, different things like that. We want to, we're also going to do respite care and have educational programs for families in these countries who already have special needs children. And they might just need the resources and the support of someone to come alongside them and help them out. And if they decide to keep their child at home, we encourage that. So we are definitely going to reach out to them and come alongside them and help them out in those situations. And then the last thing that we're going to do is local outreach. And we want to take these children out into the communities. There's a huge stigma in both Taiwan and India against orphans, and just especially as children and people in general. And so we want to take these kids out and just show people the love and the joy that they have to share. I know when we were in Taiwan, there were many times, because we had Keaton, and he was very visibly, you could tell that he had special needs. And people would come up and they would say different things to us, and we didn't know because it was in Mandarin Chinese, but Dina, the missionary, would say to us, they're not used to seeing a kid like that out in public. They're not used to seeing someone with disabilities out in public. And so it's just something that we want to help break that stigma and let them see, you know, how special these children are.
So it's something hard to think about. Well, why are we talking about children that are halfway around the world? Why aren't we talking about children that are in the United States, right? And we've got our own needs here. the reality is we live in an incredible country. We live in a country where there are resources and there is a culture for respect for the human being. And we don't allow things like this to happen in our country. And it's a beautiful place to be, right? But the sad thing is, in these countries, they don't have any of that. And so, if you're familiar with other programs, you know, oftentimes it's sponsor a child. Sponsor a child in another country, which there are great organizations out there that do this. And I'm sure a lot of you have kind of seen or maybe even got involved in sponsoring children. And that's an incredible thing, and we do it ourselves too, a number of children. But when you think about these children, and you think about, well, should I, you know, can I sponsor a child? Well, that child may not be there 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years later, right? So what we encourage people to think about is, can you sponsor a bed? Can you help make that short or however long that we can make that window of life just really impactful for that little child, in that even though they're halfway around the world and don't feel like everybody's thinking about them, they don't even know really what that feels like to have somebody thinking of them. So it's a very specialized, it's a very different concept and to kind of get our heads around, but there's an immense need. And every bed that we create, we will fill immediately. There's that big of a need. So we do get the question, how can we help? From a lot of people, and so I want to try to articulate that. I'll tell you, one of my weaknesses is I don't know how to ask for help. I'm a typical guy, okay? So this is not one of my strong suits. I'm good at giving you advice on how to provide help or providing help myself, but asking for help, entirely different. But God gave me a voice for a reason. I think it's to be the voice for these kids, because they're not in a position to ask for help, right? So here's what I want you to think about. Here's what I encourage you to do is first, there's a brochure or a little card here. I want you to grab one of these on the way out, if you can. And it's going to tell you really a summary of what we talked about today. But more so, hopefully it prepares you to be able to tell other people about what is that organization, if I go on and check it out. The second is we've got a great website. So if you want to learn more on there, it's a great means for resources. Mandy writes an incredible blog. She's good with her words, way better than I am. So it's a fun, short read that can be inspirational for you, your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers. And I just encourage you to go on there. Literally, it's probably a minute read every few months or so, a couple months, and it's always, I think you're going to love it. Partly through donation. Like I said, asking for help is not a strong suit. Asking people to donate is not a strong suit of mine. But it's an absolute reality. We'll only be able to create those beds for those children through donation. And so we need you. We need you to, everybody that can, we need you to donate. I know that personally, I would go to the ends of the earth for, my kids, and my friends and family. We're a society that spends a lot of money and effort on continuing life for just a couple more months, or finding ways to cure a child of an illness or cure an ailment or whatever it might be. And that's great. But I tell you that a very small donation each month will make one of these children feel like they're an actual human being. They'll make one of those children feel like there's somebody that's there for them, to support them, to love them. Even if it's a short window of time, imagine the impact that you're going to have on those children. They may not ever be able to tell you it because they don't have a voice, but you'll be able to see it, and we're going to make sure that anything that you give or however you decide to donate or advocate or tell others, we're going to be that conduit for communication of showing the impact that you've all had. So please consider that. That was my best go at asking for donation. I'm just not good at it, guys. But it's I can't tell you how priceless and how invaluable that will be for any of these children. Pray and tell others is of course something you can do continually and frequently, and we encourage you to do that. And of course, finally, consider a mission trip. As this organization grows, There'll be opportunities for short and long-term missions, and we're actively looking for a couple long-term missionaries that can go over and help us in the scaling of it, and it's a great opportunity for somebody that will, I'm sure will step up at some point soon, but there'll also be short-term opportunities to go over and just create some, or help, be a resource, love the children, and help them recognize just how special they are.
So I kind of summed up, so Keaton's Angel Homes was created out of the undying love of a little boy who taught us that life is a precious gift, and it doesn't matter where a child is from, or how long they have here on earth, or what their special need is, but they deserve to feel God's love from God's people. And so that's really what Keaton's Angel Homes is. It's being the hands and feet of Jesus to these little kids. And we thank you for listening to us today. And like Matt said, there's cards over there, business cards, things like that to help you get more involved. We've had a lot of people asking us different questions, as we've started this, and so we'd love to hear what you guys are wondering after hearing this information. It's kind of a lot of information in a small amount of time, so I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything more specific.
So are these two homes already established?
Actually, I'm glad you said that. You asked that because I was going to go into that a little bit more. So our home in India is there. If you go on the website, you can see pictures. We had a team that just got back, 3 of our board members, and then another man who does like some construction stuff. They just got back a couple weeks ago from India. And our home in India was gifted to us by a local pastor and his wife. His wife is a nurse. They had run it as a children's home for quite a while, but then they are focusing on their church and that sort of thing. So that home was given to us. That home is there. It is a place, the team that went down started, we sent a bunch of supplies, and they did a very interesting, which I thought was a great idea, very interesting way of getting the cribs there, because you can't go to India and just buy a baby crib. You can't do that, where this is. And so, so one of our board members took pictures of toddler beds and of cribs over here in the United States, and she sent them over to the Indian pastor. And he hired local men, which is what we did, to make the cribs and the toddler beds. And so if you get on the website and you go to the India page, you can click on a button that says India Gallery. There's some of these cribs and these toddler beds, so it not only made lots of cribs and toddler beds for our home, but it also employed some people over in India. So the cribs are there, the beds are there, the licensing is done in India. We have to make one more trip, I think in June. A few people are going over there, and then we can start hopefully moving children in by the end of the summer. So that was moving right along. They're building some of the pictures. I said I wish I could put a description of every picture on the website. But another thing that is in the process, and I just got another picture this week, and it's almost done. We're building what's called a blessing box, or it's also kind of known as a drop box, in our right next to the home in India, because there's a huge problem in India of babies, especially children with special needs, and unfortunately especially girl babies, because a lot of times you don't want to have one baby, and the dowry system is still over there, and that sort of thing. And so babies, if they're not wanted, they're abandoned in trash piles or by the riverbanks or in other terrible places. And so the pastor had suggested doing something like this. So we're calling it a blessing box, and it's a small room, and it will be very anonymous, so that the birth mother doesn't have to feel, or who's ever dropping this baby off, feel that they have to be known. And they will place this baby in the blessing box, and then the baby will be taken into one of our homes. So that is almost completed, the blessing box too. So that's going to be another kind of ministry that we use in India, just a safe, secure place for these babies to be put and then taken into a home that will care for them. Our home in Taiwan, as I mentioned, the Pan family, we located 2 different homes in Taiwan. Since we weren't gifted the home, we do have to raise the funds so we can either purchase one of these 2 homes, or that we can pay the rent depending on which home we go with. Both are located very close to the hospital. The one we were going to get pretty much for sure was square. It's all one level. It has a courtyard in the middle. Each of the rooms has a window for the children to look outside. We can take them out to the courtyard, that sort of thing. And then, this might be a God thing, we don't know yet, and then actually a kindergarten, a building that was used as a kindergarten, just came up for sale 1.5 miles from the Pan family. So that's actually another place that we are looking into. But the licensing to have a home over there has also been completed, so just kind of working through all the details. So the homes, like I said, one actually is there and one is almost there, and hopefully by this summer the children will be moving in. And we just launched Keaton's Angel Homes website and on social media in February, but this has actually been in process for about the past 2 years. We had to get all the 501c3 licensing for us on this side, and then we worked on the licensing in those 2 countries, and now it's a go. So we're okay to start getting everything ready.
How many kids are going in each home, and what cities are they located in?
In Taiwan, it's called Taidong, and it's on the south east corner of the island. And that home can house, either of these homes we're looking at can house about 14 children. And then the one in India is actually quite a bit bigger. So I think we're licensed for up to 30 children for our home in India right now, but we can expand that licensing if we're getting this overwhelming amount. But that's the staffing that we're preparing for right now, 14 and 20.
So is it 30 children plus staff?
No, that would just be children. Yeah, 14 children and then 30 children, yeah.
So will the staff live on site, or do they just come in to be on site?
Okay, go ahead.
Right now in Taiwan, the way we have it set up, because we had to write up very large proposals for each of these places. And the way we have it set up in Taiwan is there are 3 different shifts, and there are rotating nurses. Like there's a nurse on each shift, and then there are rotating nannies on each of those shifts. And so, and it will be similar to that in India, except for the fact that the pastor's wife lives on the grounds and she is a nurse, so she might be our constant nurse that's there. And so kind of what Matt was talking about, what we are kind of looking for is a couple people who would be interested in going over for maybe 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year. Maybe it's a couple, maybe it's a young couple, maybe it's an older couple, you know, maybe it's a couple kids, you know, in their 20s or something, but that they could stay there and actually live in the homes so that those kids have a constant, instead of rotating staff, they would actually have constant people living in the homes. Yes, yeah, like a house mother.
What city are you in India?
Oh, I'm sorry, we're in the state of Tamil Nadu, and we're in the city, I just expressed the media. And so we always have to say Tamil Nadu because we have to be a little bit discreet in India because it is a Christian-run organization. Because my mind is going blank right now. It starts with B. And Tamil Nadu is like on the southeast side of India is the state. I'll think of it here.
No, that's fine. I was just curious if it was
Yeah.
more in the southern part or.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
They're both actually, yeah.
Well, I assume you will need staff people to do the finances and whatever there too. And so how many, and what are the wages there, the staff, what's that going to cost? I assume it would be much less than here, but it's very important, so.
Yeah, much less, yes, in terms of labor cost for the staff. The other thing that is in Taiwan, one of the great things that we've got is these children kind of have the equivalent of Medicare or Medicaid. We can get them the medical supplies if you can get the child to the place of the hospital. In today's, because this doesn't exist there, those children they don't make an effort. But if we've got the staff, we can get them in for an appointment so the finances will be managed locally in the States, of course, but then the bookkeeping, everything, that's our missionaries that are in Taiwan to do that. Yeah.
We have, again, in the proposal, she wrote up very exact, like, has figured out exactly hourly what people need, yeah. So I don't have the exact numbers right now. But yeah, she did that, and then in India, it's even actually more reasonably priced than in Taiwan. And that's something too, that if we had a couple, we could cut out on staff a little bit if we had a couple of constant people there, because they would be entering those countries as missionaries, and so they would have their own support that they would raise. It'd be about $300 per month per person. They would raise that like a missionary, and they would go live in the home. So that would help with costs a lot too. We've actually had a lot of interest in that also, but that would come back a little bit.
Did you have a question now?
Mainly it was about the staff. And
Okay,
if there was enough qualified people to do this.
yeah.
Yeah, and Dina is American, Dina Pan, and she, her husband Luke is Taiwanese. And so Dina actually has a lot of connections through their church. And sort of thing. So she has already started interviewing nannies. Like I said, she has set up with the hospital as soon as the home's open for physical therapists and occupational therapists to come in. Their family will live very, very close to the home. Like each of those homes is within 1.5 miles of their house, and so she will be constantly there. And she'll be doing our finances over in Taiwan. And then the pastor and his wife will be doing our finances in India because they have run a children's home over there, so they're pretty, they showed us all the bookkeepings from that. Our team that was over there, how you do this, and he will do that for us. Yeah.
You mentioned the program of sponsoring the bed. Now, does that include just the cost of keeping the child there, or does that cover the staff cost? Or?
It really depends on how many donors we get. We're doing, we need to be in front of as many people as we possibly can. We realize many hands make light work. And so, with regard to the sponsorship, it's more about the bed and the child than it is the support staff. We're gonna find ways to support them in different ways in sponsorships, and then even missionaries too, like Andy mentioned. So really, everything is going toward the child, the bed, the child, and at this point. And so we're fortunate to have ways of finding this staff.
Right now, what is your projected cost to sponsor a day?
We are doing, it can be whatever people feel led to give. We have a family from our church who is sponsoring a bed right now when the bed gets up, but they've done a monthly donation of $50 because that's what they could do. And it started out as a general one, and then when we spoke at our church the second time at a missions night, we mentioned specifically sponsoring a bed. And so, so then she asked if they could change theirs over to that. So that would be, you would have a little plaque put on this bed or crib. We would send you updates and reports and pictures of this, whatever child was in this bed. And like Matt said, hopefully it would be for a long amount of time, but we know there are some very severe special needs that child might not be there very long. And then we get pictures and reports on another child that was in this bed. But your primary donation, yes, would go to meet the needs of that specific child in the bed, and then, food and diapers. And there's just a lot of medical equipment. So a lot of the kids will need breathing machines. Our son Keaton had a feeding, just a feeding machine, yeah, that would feed him, a feeding pump. Things like that we'll need to have in the homes for the kids. And we have, I've talked to our supplier in Des Moines who, we got Keaton's feeding tube through, we got his walker, his wheelchair, and he had something called a stander that is just something to use for children with cerebral palsy, so that they can be in a standing position. And actually after Keaton passed away, my parents dropped Keaton's stander and his wheelchair back off at this place, and that place donates used medical equipment to underprivileged children in other countries. And so I talked to him, and he worked with Keaton, and he worked with us. And so he is more than willing to, he said, whatever equipment kids outgrow or other circumstances, he will donate that to us. And then in Taiwan, I talked to Dina, and she has a lot of missionary friends over there. So we would collect all this equipment, and then we would put it on a shipping container. We'd probably share it with another missionary family, and then it would be shipped over to Taiwan. Some of those things you can't get over there. So that's kind of how we're planning on getting a lot of the medical equipment over there, or sending it with people who travel over there on mission trips, that sort of thing.
One other thing to think about, or to know is we are going to be advocating that these children still be adopted. They're orphans and they have severe special needs, but there are families out there that they're just really hard to find, and so our goal is still to make sure that if we can connect them with a family, we're going to make that happen. We just know that the likelihood of that is pretty hard, So but that is still one goal, is actually give them a forever family.
And we have this listed on our website too. We our homes will take children on the whole array spectrum of special needs, from something that might be a little bit more not simple, but like children with Down syndrome, clear enough to the extreme of Keaton and Champ, where they had very severe cerebral palsy and they were in a wheelchair and feeding tube and that sort of thing. So any special needs children are more than welcome to come into the home, we don't limit it to just children with feeding tubes that, you know, are in wheelchairs. We might have, syndrome children or children without other.
When you get children in your blessing box that do not have special needs, what do you do with those?
That is a good question, actually, because we had talked about that a lot, because there are going to be infants that are put in there. And those children will be brought into the homes, and it will be cared for, but there are other orphanages that will take those children. And so we just need to find an orphanage that will take an able-bodied children, or an able-bodied child, and then they'll be placed in those orphanages.
Yeah, it'll be a
Yeah.
short term, it's to find them the next place, but it's not the long-term solution for those children, because they're,
Do the orphanage over there, with the regular children that have no, do they give the children more attention? Do they hold them and take care of them better than they do the special needs?
I think so, in the fact that as those children get older, they're able to run around and play and interact with the staff and interact with the other kids in the orphanages, whereas, you know, Keaton was 3.5 years old and he couldn't get up and move out of his crib and that sort of thing, so he was just kind of left there like a burden. And so they do, as babies, I honestly don't know, because we only had our experience in the nursing
And
home.
it may have changed, because I had a granddaughter that was born in China that was left on the doorstep. And she was, they didn't know how, 15 or 16 months old when my daughter died. That, I don't think she had had a lot of human interaction.
Very well could be the case, yeah, and the other orphanages too, just don't have quite as much experience. You have a question?
Well, I just, when Rosalie mentioned, what does it cost to sponsor a bed? You can't really give an exact price. They're willing to take whatever can be afforded, correct?
Yeah,
Because
it's
if
not-
you got a child with minor special needs, it's not gonna be as much as a child with major special needs. And so it's not
But
a,
I think you're going to run into trouble. I have, like Orna's Orphans, and this woman feeds kids, that's their only meal of the day. You can sponsor a child at school, but that would cover uniforms and books, and for so much a year. So I don't know if you want to, I know anything would help. I think you should set a minimum of what.
yeah, quantify it.
However much that could cost to build might be a
Sure.
good place to start, because
Yeah.
getting it built is the first step.
Yeah.
Right.
How poor is that area, community, that you guys are building in?
So, well, India,
comparable.
compared to here, well, it's hard to describe. I mean, it's completely different third world war compared to here. And the same with Taiwan. Taiwan is,
Like, is $50 a lot for,
it's,
or is it just like, it's like a medium, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
here, I wouldn't do anything, I don't think, $50
Right.
for that here.
right, $50 goes a long way in Taiwan.
Mhm.
Taiwan goes even further in India.
Yeah.
But probably goes 5x that in India, southern India in particular. But in Taiwan, $50 would go 5x what it would here.
And that's a good question, because it is very
Yeah.
different, yeah, dealing with, like, someone had asked on how much the wages are, you know, we want to have reasonable wages, but it is much less than it would be over here, you know, just because we've been talking with people in the country, and we just kind of see this okay for their economic status, yeah.
We found in our church, we sent a lot of missionaries out, but they do not call them missionaries at all, and they do not enter the country as missionaries, because they enter as a target in many of those places. And so they call them international workers. I can see where in Taiwan, you would be able to call them missionaries because it's not only Christian. But in India, you're in the southern part, which is more Christian, but it can be very hostile to the Christians, is that, but you are labeling them as Christians when they go in.
If you go on our website and you look under where it says board members, or it says our team, a lot of people, like, it says Matt and Mandy Poulter, you know, different names. You go down to the bottom, our 3 board members that just got back from India, it will say Miss Dia, Mr. Nick, we didn't use their last names because when you enter the country of India, they do Google search you real quick. And if it popped up that they were coming in with a Christian organization, they could be denied access into the country. So we do, in India, we do have to be very cautious of that. Another board member, Amy, is probably going to go live over in India, in that orphanage, and so we put Miss Amy. We didn't use last names for that, because India is a lot more hostile towards Christians. It is the pastor's a Christian pastor. He did not have any problems when he ran his children's home. He kept his bookkeeping very, very accurate, very up to date, followed all the guidelines, all the rules, so he did not have a problem with the government. But we don't want to put a target on people's backs either, so we are very cautious of what we say. That we didn't put any pictures or anything out until our team was back from India. Taiwan, you do not have that problem at all, but India, there is a problem with that sometimes.
Same with address of where the orphanage is, you know, we wouldn't be posting that online, things like that, or showing a direct map is here, you know. Whereas in Taiwan, you can, it's a much different country.
That's why I keep saying Tamil because it gives like the state, but point our location, yeah, in India, so it is a little bit different, yeah.
Any other questions?
How often do you guys go over?
We, or at least me, are hoping to go over this summer and help look at home, for sure which home we're gonna have, and get it all ready, that sort of thing. We'll probably take a trip soon after we do that to help build wheelchairs, get it, or build wheelchair ramps, get it ready to go. So I don't know, I would say we would plan on going a few times a year, if not more than that, and then eventually in the long run, move over there.
Yeah, so,
But, you know, we just have to see. Our daughter, Whitley, has already asked if she could possibly go this fall and, you know, kind of help get things up and running. So we will have people over there on the ground. We've worked with Dina Pan she helped us through Keaton's entire adoption. She comes over to the United States a lot, and so we have a lot of connection with her, and she's our connection through Taiwan. The India team actually goes over pretty often, so we will probably, they were over in November, and then they were over in February, and then they're going back in June. And so they just, the place that they are in their lives, some of them, their children are out of the house, you know, and that sort of thing. So Matt and I hope to, you know, I don't know yet, several times a year, and eventually we'll go over there. So.
everybody feel like you have a good understanding of what it is we're trying to accomplish, or, you know, the need and that sort of thing? Well, if there's no other questions, thank you for coming. Oh, no, go ahead.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
If people donate money to this, does it get sent to you? Is it a tax deduction thing? Is it a over there kind of thing that you send to, or do you send to a bank here in America? How does that go?
Through our bank, it's Keaton's Aid Homes account. And so, and everything is tax deductible. It's 501c3 nonprofit organization. So if you go on our website, just right at the top, it says donate now, we have a donate page. All that goes directly into the account for Keaton's Aid Homes. You can say India or Taiwan, or it can go into the general account where it gets used for the biggest need at this moment. You know, if you want to, you can leave a note if you want to sponsor a bed, that sort of thing. But all that goes into an account here in the United States. It's Keaton's Aid Homes, it's all tax deductible. If someone writes us a check, our accountant sends, you know, a receipt, 501c3 receipt with a thank you note to you, that sort of thing. And then as we need to, like for the blessing box, someone donated $1,000 to help out with that. And so that went through our account. And then when our team went over, we took that out and they got the paperwork to show that that was going directly to pay for the blessing box.
Do you lose a lot of money when you change it from the American money into, when we went to South America, they charged 25 or 30% to change your check, to cash your money. You know?
Yeah, no, it runs through, it runs through clearinghouse, so they're into an account that you can extract from there. So there is usually a charge if you do like a PayPal, or if you do something like that, whatever that channel is that you would donate through. It's it takes that out. There's no administrative fees, there's no, every dollar of this goes to the children. So we love the fact that that is, and it's part of a growing, scaling nonprofit. And the missionaries over there run everything through they're all sponsored already through a different clearinghouse. So yeah, we try to keep those middlemen transactional fees out of the mix as much as we possibly can. Yeah.
Well, 501c, you have to, the government keeps very close tabs on every penny that is taken in and every penny that's spent. And that's how they get the 501c, is there's been, like you said, 2 years of preparing this and getting the 501c.
And on that point, I mean, I'll just be completely transparent. So we're business owners, and we're business owners for one reason, because this is our mission, and we're putting everything that we have into this. But from a 501c3 status, we can only contribute up to 50%, because if we did contribute 51%, we lose our 501c3 status. So we need donors. So it's regulation at its best, but we're even limited by how much we can contribute to this, by how much we can have other people contribute to this. We want it to grow and prosper and thrive, and there's nobody more dedicated to this than the people that are sitting in front of you right now. But we do it because we believe in it. We believe in these children's lives. So we greatly appreciate it. And those of you that know the challenges of charities know that those are some of the things that you have to manage. So.
Is it set up on your website where you can set up kind of like reoccurring payments, or do you have to remember every month to go on?
Nope, there's a, when you go on, you can put the amount, and then there's a little button that says, do you want to make this a monthly payment?
Okay.
And so you check that, and it makes it really easy, and then it just comes right out of there. That can be through PayPal or just directly through your debit card. And then we do have someone from our church that just wanted to take it out of their bank account, so then I can work with your bank, and it can be pulled out as like a bill pay each month. So it's set up pretty easy for that. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Appreciate everybody coming out, and there's plenty of cookies and coffee too.
So we want to thank the library too for allowing us to use the space again. Sunny day out there, beautiful day, beautiful afternoon. So we'll all enjoy getting down and get some fresh air. Grab one of these if you want a reminder of everything and to be able to tell your friends. The website is on the bottom of it. There's also a donation box. There's a list for an email. If you'd like an email occasionally from us, an update, I encourage you to write your email down, and we'll make sure that you get that. And if you have an interest in sponsoring, having a monthly donation to sponsor a bed, just jot your information down on that, and we'll make sure that we contact you on that also. But we thank you for your time. We're going to impact a lot of lives and in a lot of great ways. Of children that don't have the loudest voice in the world, that a lot of people don't know about and wouldn't ever know about them if it wasn't for people like you that want to help us make a difference. So thank you for that, or your time today, and stick around if you have questions.